Dungeons & Dragons, also known as D&D, is a game invented by Gary Gygax and his friends in 1974. It is a fantasy role-playing game where players enter a world of magic and monsters as superhuman heroes. Players, called PCs, search for adventure and treasure that is placed into the game world by the Dungeon Master, also known as the DM. The game has traditionally been seen as an activity for awkward nerds trying to escape their real lives, but despite this, many people still play Dungeons & Dragons. Vin Diesel, famous for the Fast and Furious and as well as the Riddick series of movies, is a well-known player who actually still plays Dungeons & Dragons. He even had a Twitter post showing his birthday cake that consisted of 3 different manuals from the Dungeons & Dragons series. Another famous player is Robin Williams, who discussed playing D&D in his past. He's also, in 2006, he participated in the worldwide Dungeons & Dragons Game Day. Despite Dungeons & Dragons' overall success worldwide, it hasn't always been seen in a bright light. During the 1980s, the game was vilified as a way for people to practice witchcraft. It was often seen as a way for dark, satanic forces to influence the minds of children, causing the game to drop in its popularity and not really gain the acceptance that we see it have today, and also led to some of the stigma that people have towards playing Dungeons & Dragons. Despite the vilification of Dungeons & Dragons, it has managed to stay culturally relevant to a degree, and is slowly working itself more and more into popular culture, as people like Dan Harmon, the creator of Rick and Morty, have created a show where Dan Harmon and his friends play Pathfinder, a game based off of an earlier edition of Dungeons & Dragons, as well as the characters of Stranger Things playing a game of Dungeons & Dragons towards the beginning of the show, where they battle the mighty Demogorgon in its miniature form. One avid Dungeons & Dragons player, Otto Steckler, the subject of this documentary, has been playing Dungeons & Dragons since he was about 11 years old. And in the following interview, he'll describe how Dungeons & Dragons has affected his life and how he originally got into Dungeons & Dragons. So, when and how did you get into Dungeons & Dragons?
So, I first started playing D&D when I was about 11, I believe. I was at this party at a friend of my dad's, actually a coworker of my dad's. And of course, I was 11, and the party is like full of adults, so there's nobody for me to really hang around with, so I'm kind of just walking around the party, like really just looking for something to do, and I come into some back room of his, which must have been this coworker of my dad's library, and I see these D&D books on the shelf, and I like pull them down and I start reading them, and I'm like, wow, these are super. And I come into some back room of his, which must have been this coworker of my dad's library, and I see these D&D books on the shelf, and I like pull them down and I start reading them, and I'm like, wow, these are super awesome. I'm looking at all the illustrations and reading all the lore and stuff, and like 5 hours later or whatever, my parents come in and they're like, okay, it's time to go. Oh, here you are. And I've been just reading these books the whole night. And then a couple weeks later, they needed somebody to substitute for one of their players who wasn't there, and my dad's coworker passed on to my dad, and my dad passed on to me, and then I showed up one Sunday, and the rest is history, I guess. I wasn't there, and my dad's coworker passed on to my dad, and my dad passed on to me, and then I showed up one Sunday, and the rest is history, I guess. I've been playing since then.
All right. And has D&D gotten you into like any other hobbies?
I would say it definitely has, yeah. Through D&D, first of all, I definitely already loved reading when I started playing D&D, but it kind of deepened my love of reading. It turned me on to a lot of new, interesting literature and stuff like that. I started painting miniatures after I played D&D because I, got to know a bunch of people who painted their miniatures and so on and so forth, and just kind of general art skills and drawing skills and stuff like that. I kind of got a chance to practice a lot too, working on stuff for my own games and stuff throughout my time playing D&D. advantages of being a player is being able to go out of your comfort zone and really play somebody that's kind of new and different from yourself and unique, and really being able to pretend to be, something new.
And so, do you think D&D maybe had like a recognizable impact on like other parts of your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would say D&D has had a huge impact on my life. I've met and strengthened a lot of friendships through D&D. People that I otherwise wouldn't have, really had any contact with. We bonded over D&D. And this isn't even like, I'm not even talking about, like a group of, nerds, sitting in the basement, like, I attack the goblin kind of thing, I mean, like, all kinds of people from all different walks of life, all being able to kind of come together through this game. I mean, in my high school group, two of my players were football players. One was a cheerleader, two were on the, theater department and stuff like that. Pretty much all of them couldn't be more different from each other, and yet it's this one game that brought everybody together. And that group, I mean, we're still friends to this day, and we still have Facebook chats where every, couple weeks somebody's going to be like, so when are we playing D&D again, that kind of thing. And I think that staying power is, one of the best things about D&D.
Whether or not you decide to start playing Dungeons and Dragons so you can roll dice to slay orcs and ogres is up to you. But Otto Struckler would certainly recommend that you play the game, and so would I, as someone who plays the game. Dungeons and Dragons will likely remain a key part of nerd culture in the United States, and will continue to most likely force itself further and further into the mainstream as it becomes less and less stigmatized.